Hey, this is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle. How is everybody? I'm here. Yay! I'm wearing the shirt that I silk screened a while back. These are some of my designs that I silk screened on this shirt. And this is my tattoo that I also designed. That means be yourself no matter what they say. I have been feeling very introspective lately. I'm an introvert. I'm a left-handed only child introvert. I have synesthesia. When I hear music, I see shapes, dance, and move. And I'm highly sensitive. There's times when I think I'm high-functioning autistic, but I don't know if it matters to officially be diagnosed as such. I don't really believe in labeling people specifically. I can't speak for anyone actually but myself. But personally, I don't know if finding somebody that would categorize me in that way would help me. I'm only interested in doing that if it would actually help my life improve. I'm very much interested in health, mental health, physical health, nutrition, exercise, getting enough sleep, a lot of time to myself. I'm highly sensitive to taste, touch, smell, visual ness of the world, and I'm loving the sound of the birds singing out my window. I love the sound of the rain. Um, Yesterday, I make a living full time modeling for artists, mostly nude, but sometimes with costume or for portrait, where they just paint and draw my head and shoulders. And so that's how I make my full time living. I'm 50 years old, which I'm not really supposed to say as a female because a lot of women are self-conscious about their age. And I'm not speaking for any woman other than myself. Um, I know some people judge each other for being a certain age, but I'm proud of how well I'm aging. So I just tell people I'm 50 if they ask. I don't say it's a secret. I am just feeling the need to share a little bit on video. I feel like I have a weekly radio show that I do on Hollow Earth Radio, which is a 60-minute show, which is just random monologues, as well as, hi, Eric, how are you? Pretty good. I felt overwhelmed earlier, and then because I went to my creative writing group, which was really fun. There was two other people there, and I had fun with my creative writing group, but I did not really like how noisy it was. We meet every weekend at a cafe in Seattle, and it's this really cool coffee shop slash bookstore. Great place, but it's just so loud in there with the coffee grinder and just people talking. And some people are a lot louder than others. And my creative writing friends and I, we sit for 20 minutes and we do a creative writing free write. And then we read aloud to each other in a circle, and I enjoy doing that. I've known these people for years. Usually it's just three of us that show up, and another woman and a man. And he is the ambassador of color here in Seattle. And he's a great guy. And this lady I know, and we both, or all three of us, write. And so that was great. But I noticed that I was feeling really hyper sensitive to the noise. And I was feeling irritated and overwhelmed by the noise. And everybody finds sirens, like emergency ambulances. I'm sure that nobody likes the sound of a siren or a police car running its blaring its loud screeching. And I swear I went to Europe, and the sirens in Europe were not as high pitched as the ones in the United States, and it didn't hurt my ears as much. The ones in Europe, they're different. So I'm glad you're well, Eric. Forgive me for not having a conversation. I'm just trying to record certain things on video. I mean, feel free to say what you want, but um, I just want to get a few things expressed on this video. I know that I don't even know if anybody watches my videos besides you, Eric. I think there are a few people that watch my videos, but mostly I do this because I just feel like I need to express myself. I feel kind of dissatisfied with expressing myself with other people sometimes. So again, I went to my creative writing group and I enjoyed that, but I did not enjoy all the noise, the traffic, I try to walk on what I do is in order to avoid the stress of parking, I park really far away. Well, not really far. It's good exercise, but I park because I don't want to pay for parking. That's a ripoff. And I'm really frugal and I only like to spend money on things that I really care about, and then I save the rest of my money. So that's what I do. Um, so I park 20 minutes away from where my creative writing is on a street that's really quiet by a park, and it's really free and easy to park, and there's always spots because I find it so stressful to drive around this really congested neighborhood called Capitol Hill in Seattle. That's near the creative writing place. And it's always really crowded, and there's like 2-hour parking spots, but that's it. There's no all day parking that's free, and there's a bunch of metered parking. And so basically, to make a long story short, I try to walk on the quiet road all the way to creative writing, but I can't avoid having to walk down some really busy streets and hear a lot of really loud noise. And it really irritates me. And I feel like people that are less sensitive are not as irritated. Like nobody likes loud traffic noise, that's not a fun sound to hear. But I really feel like it's refreshing to listen to people's thoughts and stories. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Eric, for speaking with me on this. Yeah, so I have a strategy for saving money in Seattle. Seattle is a very expensive city, and I'm able to survive in Seattle partly because I have a special rent situation and a great landlord, and my rent is really reasonable. But I also know how to do things like never pay for parking unless I absolutely have to. $5 or $6 every once in a while I pay for parking, but usually I never pay anything, and I'm willing to walk up to half an hour. If I can park for free in a quiet neighborhood, then I'll walk like up to 30 minutes to wherever I'm going so that I can have free parking, and also to avoid the stress of driving around and looking for a parking spot and having cars behind me and me, them honking at me and wanting me to get out of their way. And it's really stressful for me. So I avoid that and I just park. There's also a school where I model, and it's like $5 to park or $6 to park. And the parking lot is not only that, but it's also very crowded, and you usually can't find a spot. I've never even tried to find a spot. The instructor that hired me to model said, "Oh, the parking is like $5 or $6, but it's usually full and hard to even get a spot." And so I just said, "Okay, that's good. I'm not going to do that." So what I did was I got there early on the first day that she hired me, and I drove all over the neighborhood, and I found where I could park for free. So it's like a 15 or 20-minute walk away from campus. So I get good exercise walking to and from my car, and free parking. And also no stress of looking for a parking spot because I park on a residential street where it's free and there's tons of spots because it's not a very densely populated area. So that's what I do to deal with my stress. And I'm thinking maybe I'm just introverted and highly sensitive, or it could be that I'm a little bit autistic. And so meaning my physical brain is a little different than the typical neurotypical humans. So I also have like a real closeness with animals, and I feel kind of like oh, thank you. It's very smart. I agree. Because people complain about how much it costs to park, and it's like, okay, well, if you're healthy enough to go for long walks, then you don't have to pay to park. Although, I guess if everybody did what I did, then there would be no place to park because everybody would be parking 20 minutes away from where they were going and parking on all the free streets that I know about. Everybody would be doing that, and then there'd be no parking. So I guess I'm glad that not everybody does what I do. But if somebody complains about parking, the solution is if you have time and energy, park 20 minutes away on a free, quiet street, and then walk to where you're going. Uh, I used to not have a car for many years. I didn't have a car, and so I was used to walking and riding my bicycle and taking the bus everywhere. So I kind of knew where all the streets were in Seattle, and I know where a lot of the free parking is. So I was already kind of prepared for that. And then as soon as I got a car, it was so much easier to do everything, go grocery shopping and commute to all my modeling jobs. But I kind of use my car like a park and ride vehicle, like, depending on what neighborhood I'm going to. I park for free and then I walk, I run errands. Like if I'm going to a densely populated area and I want to go to the post office and the bank and the grocery store and creative writing and just random like window shopping or whatever, it's really stressful to pay for parking. And also, it's crowded to even find a paid parking place, which is silly. Why waste money on parking? So, what I do is, yeah, I did what I said, but that's just one of my strategies. And I'm listening to all these videos on YouTube of people that are high functioning autistic, and they're sharing their stories about sensory overload and burnout and meltdowns and stuff like that. University of Washington, your friend's son is graduating. Yes. Oh, you know what? Sometimes I model at the University of Washington and I know where to park for free because their parking is $15. At the University of Washington, it's $15 to park for 3 hours or something ridiculous. So, and when I model for the medical school there, they give us a free parking voucher, which is great. And so I park for free with my free parking pass. But when I model for the art school, there's no free parking. And so what I do is I ride my bicycle to the university and park for free with my bicycle. Or if I don't want to ride my bike, there's a park near the University of Washington. It's actually 30 minutes away. So a 30-minute walk from the University of Washington, there's free 4-hour parking near a park. And so I have to give myself lots of extra time. And I get there half an hour early and then I walk to the University of Washington. And that's how I park for free around that area. So different neighborhoods are challenging in different ways for free parking. See, I'm obsessed with this. Like I don't want to waste my time paying for parking. I'm thinking maybe I am autistic because maybe some people wouldn't want to waste their time coming up with a parking strategy, but I kind of find it fun to outsmart the system and find a way to survive and not waste my money on parking when I could, like I save money and I go to Europe. I save money and I stay with friends in Europe. And or I save money and then I can go visit my dad who retired and moved to Florida. And I don't want to spend money on things that I don't really, why waste your money on parking when you can like buy something like really healthy food? Like I'm really picky about what I eat. And so I'm on a mostly carnivore diet right now. I'm experimenting and I've lost like 30 pounds or 40 pounds, or I don't know how many pounds I've lost, but I think I weigh 155 right now and I used to weigh 185. I guess that's 30 pounds. But I'm eating a lot of meat actually, and I used to be vegan and vegetarian or mostly plant-based and a little bit of meat here and there for the protein and the good fat, good healthy fat. Thank you very much. Yes, I know that um, some people would think it was really nerdy to like have a parking strategy, but I guess I find it like a game. Like I like the idea of like I shop at Costco and Trader Joe's and Grocery Outlet, and I even sometimes go to the food bank if I have time. Although the food bank doesn't really have healthy, a lot of their food just isn't very healthy. So there's not a lot of stuff that I can get there, but to stretch my budget. But I haven't had time to go there lately. But they have some amazing stuff at the food bank sometimes. And I feed my cat a special raw meat diet, so I have to go and get him special food at the health food pet store. So what was I going to say? Parking strategies and shopping strategies. I have my calendar or my calculator, my phone with me that has a calculator on it, and I sit there and I add and subtract and multiply and divide and figure out what the best deals are. And I know how to shop and get the best deals and get like discounts. And I've been eating lots of meat, actually. I love animals. I care about animals, so I try to get as much grass-fed, organic, small farm. I get some stuff at the farmer's market, organic meats, and I've been eating beef liver, beef heart, lamb, elk. Um, I got chicken at I don't like to buy mainstream chicken because they really treat chickens really badly. And there's hormones and antibiotics, but they also are just very cruel to the chickens the way they're mass produced to eat. So I spent a lot of money on it, of $17 for a very small chicken at the farmer's market. So that was a splurge that I did. See, I would rather spend money on high quality food than parking. So that's where I put my priority, is my nutrition, because for my mental and physical health, nutrition is very important because it affects your body chemistry. Everything you eat affects your chemistry. So I bought a chicken at the farmer's market that was pasture raised and fed organic, no hormones, no antibiotics, and guaranteed to be raised in a pasture. So the chicken's able to run around and be a normal, healthy, happy chicken and not be confined to some horrible box or crate or room. Because free range doesn't really mean much these days. Like free range, what is it? Cage free and free range, I've heard, means if they have like 2 inches of space, they can call it cage free or free range. So they might still be in sort of a cage, but it's a bigger cage, and they can call it cage free or free range. And that is so. Pastured chickens, I think if they say and also farmers market chickens are guaranteed, because I asked them about their chickens and they told me that the chickens get to run around, and they told me how much space they have, like 200 square feet, like a whole bunch of chickens share like a huge pasture. So they told me that, and they told me what they fed them. And so I felt happy buying this chicken, but it was a splurge. And I actually prefer red meat anyway to chickens. So, hello, Miguel. Is that how you say your name? Hello, Miguel. How are you today? If you have any questions or comments, do you have any Grey Poupon? If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask me anything. I'm talking about nutrition, and I'm talking about how I get free parking in Seattle. Excuse me, I have an itch. Seattle is a very, very expensive city, and I have an amazing deal on rent and a really good landlord, and I know how to live. Well, I work a lot, actually, so it's kind of like a middle class. Like, I'm considered low income on paper. If you looked at my income, you'd be like, wow, she's really poor. But the thing is, my lifestyle is really cheap. I mean, I spend, $17 on an organic pasture chicken, but I mean, I don't really spend money. Like, I don't buy like makeup, and I don't get my hair done. I mean, you could tell I don't, I just do my own hair, but right now my hair is just messy. But um, I don't spend a lot of money on women's beauty products, and I just use coconut oil for moisturizer on my skin. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I have makeup that I bought years ago, and I just wear that. I don't buy new makeup. So I know how to live on a budget, and I can buy organic food, and I'm eating a lot of meat. I'm eating for mental health and physical health. I'm semi-ketogenic. I eat low carb, high healthy fat. I don't eat any grain or bread or wheat. I eat occasional rice when I eat sushi, but I generally don't eat beans or rice or wheat of any kind, or even almond flour. I got almond flour because it's low carb, and I made pancakes with eggs and almond flour, and I felt nauseous. And somebody said it's because of in almonds, there's anti-nutrients, which are what, lectins or oxalates, and those you can have a reaction to. Some people have a reaction to those, and so I felt really sick to my stomach after I made the almond flour pancakes. So I don't know if I'll do that again. I don't really miss pancakes very much. I quit wheat like 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. I quit eating wheat because I had a thyroid issue, and it went away because of that. So you like my hair. Thank you very much. It's naturally curly, and there it is. So I don't even brush it half the time, but I brush it every once in a while. So what was I going to say? Yeah, I eat meat. Actually, I tried camel. This is going to sound kind of gross to some of you, but I ate camel today. I went to the Asian grocery store here in Seattle. It's called Wajimaya. It's this amazing market, in Chinatown in Seattle International District and Wajimaya, and they have unusual meat. I have alligator. I haven't tried that alligator from Louisiana, and they have elk and bison and lamb and wild boar and camel. They have camel. So it's like it looks just like ground. It looks kind of like ground beef, except it's redder and or darker red or something. I don't know. I tried it and I liked it, and I cooked it with a little bit of butter because camel is pretty lean meat, and I eat a lot of healthy fats. I'm getting thinner and leaner, but I'm eating more fat, so it's kind of a paradox. And I feel better. I feel more mentally stable because they say that healthy fats actually don't affect your insulin very much. Like your body, when you eat carbs, your body has to secrete a lot of insulin to digest that to keep your blood sugar normal. And when you eat protein, it's like a medium effect on how much insulin your body needs to secrete in order to keep blood sugar normal. But when you eat fat, healthy fat, like natural animal fat, saturated animal fat, and natural, like olive oil and butter and cheese and eggs and whole fat dairy, especially if it's organic or raw, um, you don't need a lot of insulin to digest that. And so it doesn't have much of an effect. And that's partly why they think that if you eat healthy fats and really low in the sugar and the carbs, and medium on the protein, you can actually burn your own body fat more effectively. And that seems to be happening for me. So my waist is tapering in because I tend to gain weight in the belly area. And my waist is, the fat is basically melting off uh, my belly, and I guess I burned off some visceral fat inside, near my internal organs, because my waist is tapering, like my body shape is changing in a way that I've never seen. And even when I was like a teenager in high school, and I was a little chubby, but I was on the tennis team and I was jogging and I was really like pretty athletic actually, but I was chubby. I was kind of a chubby athletic person, if that makes sense. And my waist was rounder than it is now. And so my waist is tapering in a way that it just feels really interesting. I mean, and maybe it's also because I'm older and my body's changing naturally. But aside from burning off body fat, because a lot of people continue to gain weight as they get older, and it does not have to be that way. I'm leaner now than I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm 50, and my 20s and 30s and 40s. I've always been kind of athletic, though. My dad was a tennis teacher. My dad is 75 years old, and he's really, really fit. He works out all the time and eats really careful, and he loves food, but he's really careful about the way he eats, and he doesn't smoke or drink. And he's super athletic, like Mick Jagger, like as fit as Mick Jagger, except my dad does not need a heart valve replacement. Thank God for that. But my dad doesn't have any serious chronic health conditions. He's 75, and his heart and lungs, everything is doing fine so far. So it's amazing. So he takes good care of himself, and I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by Mick Jagger as well. Um, so basically, as you age, you do not have to gain weight. I mean, if you want to let yourself gain weight, hey, that's fine. But there's a lot of people that stay fit, into their elderly years, and I want to be one of those people. So I'm fitter now than I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s. So, but again, I've always been athletic. Like I've been exercising my entire life. I've never been a couch potato. I've always gone for long walks and played tennis and ridden my bicycle. Oh, I'm kind of exhausting myself because maybe I'm talking too fast. I'm not sure. So why do I talk so fast? I went to creative writing today, and then I wrote. I could read what I wrote. Um, Maybe it doesn't matter if I'm autistic or not, but I have a therapy appointment in a few days, and I'm going to ask my therapist more about it. She just thinks that I'm highly sensitive and I'm an introvert, and I have a hard time validating myself. Maybe my self-esteem is a bit fragile, even though I know I'm really talented in some ways. I'm doing great. Well, thank you. I think I am doing well, but I want to figure out, I guess I want to be more clear on who am I and what do I want? Because I kind of am uncomfortable a lot of the time. And I think it's because I try to make myself do things. Like today, I enjoyed creative writing, but I felt really irritated. Part of me wanted to stay home with my cat and rest because I've been working like every single day. Like yesterday, I worked with medical students from 8 a.m. to noon, and then I worked at a different school with medical students from 5:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So I worked basically 8 hours yesterday, but it took 13 and a half hours. Like I had a 13 and a half hour day with a big, like, like a split shift with a break in the middle. And so I like my work. I love actually art modeling and medical modeling, but it's kind of tiring. And so at the end of it, I was exhausted and I woke up this morning with a headache and I took an ibuprofen. And part of me just wanted to stay home with my cat. I have this nice orange fluffy cat and he's really sweet. And I stay home with him sometimes on my days off. But I rarely have a day off because I usually fill up my days off with creative writing. I volunteer at the zoo. I go get artesian well water. I just cram my schedule full. And I rarely just stay home all day. Sometimes it's nice to just stay home and rest and like do artwork. I paint shoes. I paint glitter on all my shoes, and I make these videos, and I do my radio show. And I love to get library videos. I don't have TV. I don't have cable. I have a nice, huge. My dad gave me his old flat screen TV, so I have a nice, huge, beautiful TV, but it's not hooked up to cable because I don't like cable TV. It stresses me out. So because I just sit there and channel surf and I can never figure out what to watch. So what I do is I get videos from the library for free, just like I park for free. I know how to free park and I know how to get free videos. I have a Netflix account, but it's not hooked up to my TV. So I just watch Netflix on my smartphone when I feel like it, which it really isn't very often actually. But I mostly watch free videos from the library, and it's just nice to stay home sometimes with my cat. I'm going to go see my boyfriend tonight. I'm very excited about that. But I need a lot of time to myself. Like when I'm not working, and I'm not very social. My creative writing group is my main social contact and my boyfriend. And I have a couple friends actually mainly just one or two friends that I call on the phone. But mostly I'm kind of a loner. Rest is important to pace myself. Yes, I sort of push myself a little too hard sometimes. And because it's like I'm trying to prove something. I don't know what I'm trying to prove, but try to prove that I can function in this society. But the truth is, a lot of mainstream American society to me just seems ridiculous, and I don't really like to participate in a lot of the mainstream stuff. Like I love my job. I model for artists and medical students, and I love doing my artwork, and I like volunteering at the zoo. And I like running around and doing errands, but I don't like going to parties. What do I not like? I don't go to a lot of movies and theaters because it's expensive. And I don't like all the junk food that they serve. I tend to, if I go to a movie theater, I sneak in my own food. I smuggle in my own healthy food. And if I want to eat popcorn, which I rarely do because it's too high in carbs, I like to pop organic in butter or olive oil, organic popcorn, and then I put nutritional brewer's yeast, hippie dust, which is full of B vitamins, on top of it. And so I like to make my own like homemade popcorn. I don't eat that like fake hydrogenated oil, fake artificial flavors and colors. That popcorn that they serve at the theater is terrible. I don't like that stuff. So, and I don't eat candy. I don't eat all the candy bars, and I don't eat all that stuff. And it's just such a ripoff anyway. So I don't go to movie theaters, even though I love movies, but I rarely go. Every once in a while I'll go. The two movies I've seen recently that I liked a lot was Black Klansman, the Spike Lee movie. That's pretty intense. Yeah, pretty intense. And it was kind of like funny, but then when you laugh, you think I shouldn't be laughing right now. This is really, really scary, serious issues here. Um, But it's absurd the way humans treat each other, the racism and the fear and the people judging each other for being a transgender or gay or straight or black or white or mixed. If someone is part black and part white, then they get picked on because they're too black or they're too white or they're whatever. And then people get attacked for white privilege, and then people get what probably shouldn't even say that because it tends to get me in trouble when I talk about these topics. But it'd be nice if we could go beyond the duality of us versus them as humans on multiple levels. And then this other movie I saw, so that was the Spike Lee movie. Spike Lee is a great film director. I like his work a lot. He's a very smart guy, very clever and unique director. And there was the movie Elvis. What's it called? It says I'm supposed to say something. What am I supposed to say? Howdy. It's howdy doody time. Howdy, everybody. Yes, it is sad. The amount of fear in the United States of America. Like, I can't speak for all countries, although I do have friends in Europe that I visit in Norway and England and Scotland. And I've been to lots of different, I've been to Australia and Mexico and Belgium and France and Spain and Austria and England and Scotland. And I loved France. Did I say that already? And the Bahamas. I've been to the Bahamas, and I love traveling very much. And I want national health care. I want GMO foods to be banned. There's a lot of things. I'm kind of a democratic socialist. I would love democratic socialism to be swirled together with capitalism to make capitalism more ethical. And just the gun laws in the United States are silly. I feel like we're stuck in the Wild West. We're stuck in I'm not a gun person. I wasn't raised with guns. Both my parents, my mom and dad, split up when I was 4, so I saw my dad on weekends. So my parents aren't together, but I wasn't raised with gun culture. So my family and my grandparents, yeah, they weren't into guns either. So I don't understand the whole like romanticism of guns. And there's so much violence in American movies, and there's guns everywhere, and heroes with guns, and it's frightening to me. So I'm afraid of guns. I don't want guns. But if somebody wants a gun, I feel like, okay, for self-defense or hunting. For recreational sport, like a semi-automatic weapon, why does anybody need one of those? That should not be legal. So I think that's silly. Nobody needs that. That's for like military warfare. And if somebody needs a semi-automatic assault rifle to go out and like just shoot at targets for fun, like machine gun style, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think people need that. And usually that's not what those guns are used for anyway. So we all know what those guns are used for in the United States. They're used for massacres. So that's pretty scary stuff. But I applaud New Zealand for changing their gun laws recently after the horrible, horrible thing that happened there. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I'm for tighter gun laws in this country. And if somebody wants to be a responsible gun owner, they should have to take a class and get like just like you have to get a driver's license and prove that you're a good driver and get a license, be a safe driver. The same thing, you should have to demonstrate that you're mentally healthy and that why do you want a gun? And you should have to like take classes and get certified. And maybe every year you should get recertified and take gun safety classes. That's what I think. But how many people, now this is a scary question, how many people that have guns for self-defense, just regular handguns or whatever they're called, or a hunting rifle, how many people that have those think that they're completely responsible and that they will never lose their temper and shoot somebody for no good reason? How many people think that? Because I know that there are responsible gun owners who would never do that, who would never lose their temper and use their gun in a horrible way or to kill themselves. Like there are people who commit suicide who their family is shocked that their loved one did this and they didn't know that this person had some dark moods and decided to kill themselves one day. So how many people that are responsible gun owners, one day they end up committing suicide or they end up shooting somebody, whether it's a stranger or family members? That's really scary. And I bet you most people don't think that they're going to do that. So that's frightening that if you have a gun and you think you're a responsible gun owner, someday you might lose your temper and do something really horrible. And I know that most people don't do that, thankfully. Otherwise, it would be happening a lot more often. But it does happen quite a bit in this country, way more than it happens in other countries, for a variety of reasons, I'm sure. Okay, well, that's a controversial topic, and I don't want people to like hate me because I was saying this, but I've argued with people online about gun rights, and I know it's a waste of time to argue about such a thing because it's a hot topic, but I do feel like the whole right to bear arms is kind of a old-fashioned Wild West 1800s kind of, in my opinion. Like when I go to England and I listen to British people, because the British people they're not like huge fans of guns, and they don't think everyone needs guns, so they don't have that. And when I listen to British people, I'm like, yeah, I think like a British person, even though I'm not British. I do have distant relatives from England, um, and Norway and Ireland and Sweden, I think. Those are my distant relatives. But I just am not a I don't uh if we had stricter gun laws, I wouldn't feel deprived. Let me just say that I don't feel like my all my freedom is going to be taken away. And I feel like in the United States, we're maybe a little bit obsessed with freedom, 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 like freedom for corporations to pay people $7 an hour. I don't really want corporations to be allowed to do that. Freedom for pharmaceutical companies to charge $700 for insulin, which costs $100 in other countries. No, I don't want that kind of freedom. So, not all freedom is good. The freedom to go out, like I could go right now to some store and just buy like a semi-automatic assault rifle. I mean, I don't want that freedom. I don't want to buy a gun like that. I never do. But the fact that I live in a country where I can just go and do that is a little scary to me. So it's easier than what for me to buy alcohol. Well, I'm over 21, obviously, but it's easier to buy a weapon in this country than it is to buy something, I don't know what, but it's absurd. Some of our laws are absurd. And the fact that somebody can go bankrupt because of medical bills is also crazy and absurd. So needless to say, I'm a fan of Bernie Sanders and Jimmy Carter for obvious reasons. And Alexandria I can't say her name, Cortez, Alexandria Cortez, how do you say her name? I don't know how to say her name, but I love her. I love that she has the guts and the audacity to stand up and say what she says. And I don't agree with 100% of everything she says. Like she said something about vegetarianism, because I'm a carnivore, I'm a meat eater, and I don't feel like the answer is for everyone to be vegan or vegetarian. I think the answer is to change the way we raise both plants and animals. The agricultural system should be, the soil should be renourished. There's a guy named Peter Ballerstadt who talks about, he's a master's degree in pastured animals, and he's an expert in, I didn't know there was such a master's degree, but he has a degree in, he's an expert in animals, ruminant animals who graze on grass, and he knows about the soil is depleted of minerals. And the way we grow, like we have animals over here, farming animals being raised for eating, and then we have plants and vegetables and fruits over here, and they're completely separate. We used to, like the Amish people still do, we used to rotate the crops. And in certain countries in Europe, they rotate the crops of the plants and the animals, and they make sure the soil stays full and rich of minerals with manure, with animal manure, and they don't synthetically fertilize the soil, which doesn't, nature is better at organically fertilizing soil with manure than the synthetic fertilizers that we use. So the answer is to help the environment is not to become vegan or vegetarian. It's to change the way we do both plants and animals. And I agree with that statement. And so Alexandria has talked about people eating plant-based, I think. I'm not even sure, but don't quote me on that. But I agree with democratic socialism and the idea of the 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 wealthy elite abusing their power is not okay with me. And I want there to be ethics in our government. And I don't want less government. I want different government. I want ethical government, like national health care, better mass transit, cut the military budget down a bit, make sure the veterans are well cared for, but cut the defense war budget down. And national nonprofit healthcare, no more price gouging in the pharmaceutical industry allowed. Like certain countries don't allow that. They regulate, the government will regulate to keep prices low, and it's supposed to be nonprofit public service. That's healthcare, not like hospitals in the United States look like luxury hotels with marble countertops, and that's silly. That has nothing to do with quality healthcare. Quality healthcare is not about marble countertops and fancy schmancy hospitals. Uh, I went to England, and their hospitals are not pretty, but everyone gets to go to the hospital and there's no big bills. And so I don't want fancy like hospitals with marble countertops and big glass windows and expensive blah blah blah. I just want hospitals that help take care of people, nonprofit, public service, blah blah blah. So my friend in Norway and England, they both are happy with their health care. I've asked them. And I know people in Canada who also are happy with their health care. And if they have to be on a waiting list, that's okay because there's no big bill. And if they need emergency surgery, they can get that. But if it's an elective surgery, they might have to wait a while. But you know what? In the United States, you have to be on a waiting list to see specialists for months and months and months, and you get a big bill. So it's not like we don't have any waiting times in the United States. We get big bills and waiting time. And if you need emergency surgery, of course, in the United States, you can go somewhere, but then you might get a huge bill. In Canada, don't have to worry about a huge bill. In pretty much every other country outside the United States, as far as I know, you don't have to worry about huge medical bills and have GoFundMe's, to pay your medical bills. So not to mention college tuition and student loans, etc. So yeah. Yeah, how do you pronounce that though? Ocasio? Is it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Is that how you say her name? I really like her. And she's very young, and I hope we can have a president of the United States. Maybe she will be a president of the United States one day, like when she's 35 or older, because I guess you have to be, she's only 29 or 30, and you have to be 35 or older. So I feel like when she's more experienced, if she sticks with her career in politics, perhaps she will go in that direction if she thinks, I have a feeling she's the kind of person that will head in that direction if she thinks she'll be effective to help the world. And if not, then she'll do some other kind of, she'll be a senator. Well, what is she now? She's a Congress or senator person. Forgive me, I don't know her job title. I just am happy she's elected, and maybe she'll just stick with that and go as far as she can with that. But maybe she'll be president one day or vice president. I imagine we'll have a female president eventually in this country. But I wouldn't vote for somebody just because they're female, but I love the idea of a female president, but only if I really love what they're standing for and if I'm inspired by them. I'm very inspired by Bernie Sanders. I would love for someone like him to get into office if the powers that be, I think our system is a little bit rigged, but I'm not sure. I do vote every time I vote, but I don't always know if it really counts, but I do vote. So just in case it counts, I vote. So there it is. So, yeah, because this isn't really democracy, right? It's a republic. But I like the idea of democratic socialism mixed with capitalism to regulate capitalism to be more ethical, especially for poor people. And the income inequality in this country is more severe than other countries because of housing and healthcare and the way our country works. It's very competitive in the United States. And if you're poor in more socialized countries like most of Western Europe, you can see a doctor even if you're poor and not worry about big bills. And there's like, what do you call it? Like council housing in England. There's something called council housing, and there's more. Basically, there is ways to find housing if you're low income, and there's more social services available to people in England. Not that it's perfect in England, they have a lot of problems in England, definitely. The NHS, National Healthcare, NHS is their national health service. They're having all these weird budget cuts, and I guess the conservative government is trying to mess up their healthcare. And my friend in England says that he's very upset about that, and a lot of people in England are very upset that they're trying to mess up their healthcare, their socialized healthcare, and cutting the funding. So that's really scary, and I don't know why they're doing that, but they're saying they have to do that, and that's just not true, apparently. So they're choosing to do that. So yeah, they're spending money on other things and screwing up the healthcare. So, but we could have national healthcare in this country, and maybe we will someday. And maybe somebody like Alexandria will be president one day. Maybe not. I don't know. So yeah. Okay, so I am going to get ready to do my other stuff. So thank you for listening. Oh my gosh, 44 minutes. I talked for 44 minutes. So thanks for joining. Ah, thanks for joining me. I'm going to sign off now. See you next time. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle, and you can write me with questions or comments. You can go to my website, shannonkringen.com, or you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and Flickr. And I do a thing on Anchor. I do like a podcast on Anchor, which is random, on audio, and there's music of mine online. And then I do an hour-long radio show, hollowearthradio.org. It streams on their website, and there's a low-powered FM radio station, and they broadcast live as a low-powered FM radio station in Seattle, in the Central District of Seattle. But mostly you can hear them online. And then I archive my 60-minute. I've done it for 2 years actually, every week. A radio show called Goddess Kring, where I share music I love. I shared a band called the Deep Dark Woods recently. I share Tom Petty and Tori Amos music. And Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives is a country band that I really like. He worked with Johnny Cash and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And Mike Campbell produced their album called Way Out West. I'm a huge music lover, and I've created my own music with Claxton, Kent, and Portland, and I've done music and I've done poetry, and my music's pretty weird, though, I have to say. The music that I love is more traditional than the music I create, kind of avant-garde, strange, unusual music. The music I love, though, is more like Tom Petty, Tori Amos, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Beck, the Byrds, Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives, Johnny Cash, Lucinda Williams, Patti Smith. Interesting, I don't like the music of Amanda Palmer, but I love her writing and her book, The Art of Asking, that was a bestseller. She's married to Neil Gaiman, also a very amazingly creative, great guy. I'm just not a fan of Amanda Palmer's music. I've tried to listen to it several times. She worked with a local guy named Jason Webley. I love it when they work together. Jason Webley and Amanda Palmer have done some cool music together. I love I love when they work together more than when Amanda does her solo thing, but I love it when she just plays the ukulele and sings about political things. I love her attitude. She's kind of like Joan of Arc, she's kind of a hero, and I love her attitude, and she's highly intelligent, and I like her Instagram feed and her writing. She writes blogs, like huge blog posts, and she's a very good writer, very intelligent, interesting person with a good heart and a good mind. And yet I don't like her music. Like the sound of her music is just too cold, or it's kind of like the Dresden Dolls are kind of like, what is it, like punk cabaret? I don't know what you call that, but I just don't really love that kind of music, but I admire it. I like the dramaticness of it. I like the intensity and the passion, but not the actual sound of it. I'm more into folk, country folk, rock and roll, blues, like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Johnny Cash and the Byrds and Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones and okay. And Beck, I think Beck's one of the youngest musicians that I like. That's, a younger well, he's like around my age, but he's a younger guy. But what was I going to say? There's a movie coming out called Echo in the Canyon about the music of Southern California, and Tom Petty is in that, and with members of the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and what's it called, the Mamas and the Papas, and all of the like old Southern California bands from the 60s and 70s or whatever. And I want to see that movie, Echo in the Canyon. I like Joni Mitchell as well, and I volunteer at the zoo, so I'm going to go to a bunch of Zoo Tunes concerts this summer. I got to see Jeff Beck at the zoo. I got to see Blondie and the Cowboy Junkies and Joan Baez and Pat Benatar and the B-52s and Jewel and lots of really interesting, great musicians for free at the zoo because I volunteer there. And that's a perk of volunteering is I get to go to the Zoo Tunes concerts for free in exchange for doing the work that I do for them. And I love the zoo. I love plants and animals and love music. So that's a good thing. And okay, I'll see you next time. 49 minutes. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thanks for listening. Anybody, if I hope somebody listened besides Eric and the other guy that was here. I don't see your name anymore, but thank you for listening, Eric. And I hope somebody else listens as well. But it felt good to express myself. So I need to detach from the outcome. Just do my thing. Bye.